It's too stressful, and frankly, I do not have the nerve.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Rachel Zegler initially saw her Snow White role as a golden opportunity, a chance to make her mark under Disney's celebrated umbrella and join the ranks of live-action heroines cemented in cinema legend.
Our rights are on the line, folks.
The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
The day she landed the coveted part in the 2025 adaptation, she dived in wholeheartedly, thrilled at the prospect of reinterpreting a fairy tale heroine beloved by generations since the original 1937 animated classic.
Minecraft in the United States in one weekend made more money than Snow White has made globally after 3 weekends.
From the start, she spoke candidly in interviews about injecting a modern viewpoint into Snow White. She championed themes of independence and self-empowerment, insisting that a princess for contemporary audiences shouldn't merely exist as a damsel waiting to be saved. At first, Disney executives found her approach novel and exciting. They saw in her vision a bolder Snow White, one who could captivate modern viewers and possibly revitalize the iconic tale.
Rachel Zegler then inexplicably continued to post herself in an empty theater for her own movie. She's literally the only person there. Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
Chicken
Behind the scenes, however, production faced hurdles. Deadlines kept shifting. A project initially slated for a 2024 premiere was postponed to 2025 because of continuous reshoots. Various creative leaders cycled in and out of the production, each proposing a different narrative trajectory. Greta Gerwig even contributed to the screenplay at one point, striving to merge timeless fairy tale motifs with a more realistic, updated storytelling approach.
The future of Hollywood is being battled out right now in theaters as 2 live-action remakes from the biggest studios in Hollywood go head-to-head.
Pressure also mounted from Disney's senior leadership, chief among them CEO Bob Iger, who recognized Snow White as a crown jewel in the studio's legacy. Initially, Rachel Zegler wasn't alarmed by the erratic schedule or the revolving door of creative minds. She assumed it was par for the course on any high-profile Hollywood blockbuster.
Warner Brothers' Minecraft movie versus Disney's Snow White, which in theory should be quite a battle, but it's not even a fair fight.
Yet whispers soon emerged of potential issues between her and co-star Gal Gadot, who was cast as the evil queen. Though they showed courtesy in public, rumors hinted at tension. Rachel's outspokenness about the 1937 classic sparked backlash from longtime devotees, who accused her of brushing aside the cherished legacy that paved the way for this remake.
You know what's interesting about all this is that the only person waiting in line to see Snow White was Rachel Zegler.
The friction surrounding her comments reportedly seeped onto the set, culminating in awkward, high-stakes filming days. Insiders noted that the tension boiled over during the climactic scenes, in which Snow White and the 7 companions confront the evil queen in a sinister stronghold. Multiple takes were required to perfect both pacing and continuity.
And everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Rachel fervently believed in portraying Snow White as morally steadfast and resilient, while Gal brought a darker, more improvisational intensity to the villainous monarch. Their contrasting energies often collided, overshadowing the carefully scripted exchanges. The team struggled to regroup after each aborted take, and on one particularly turbulent day, they needed more than 24 attempts to capture just a single section of the showdown.
Rachel Zegler then inexplicably continued to post herself in an empty theater for her own movie. She's literally the only person there. And do you not understand how humiliating this is?
Disney executives, anxious about potential bad publicity, strove to keep the situation under wraps. Nonetheless, stories trickled out suggesting that the 2 leads were at odds in ways that went beyond mere creative debate. Rachel Zegler, labeled by some as too headstrong, found herself butting up against Gal Gadot, a far more established figure.
Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
Moreover, the constant script changes and production shakeups wore down everyone. The atmosphere on set became so tense that cast and crew members increasingly focused solely on their tasks to avoid getting caught in the middle.
And the cops had to escort the rowdy teenagers out. The Minecraft movie is doing something magical. It's creating a live audience reaction event.
A bigger concern loomed for Disney: the film's overall direction. Rewrites and last-minute alterations had produced a patchwork of footage, making it challenging to maintain a consistent story. Snow White's journey varied wildly between versions, sometimes emphasizing compassion and self-discovery, sometimes spotlighting the evil queen's motivations.
Encouraging to see a movie that decided to do the opposite of Snow White, which is, according to all available reviews, including from the people that I trust the very most on this platform,
The tone veered from whimsical fantasy to grim fable. Executives, watching budgets balloon and timelines expand, started wondering if they should shelve the project or drastically overhaul it.
It is non-political. The Minecraft movie does not try to beat you and box you about the ears with the message.
Late in the summer of 2024, the planned United Kingdom premiere, intended to build early buzz overseas, was abruptly canceled. Officially, Disney cited scheduling conflicts and a desire to polish the film. Observers, however, connected the dots. The event's cancellation likely stemmed from the swirling controversies. Rachel, who had been eager to share glimpses of her work, was deeply disappointed. She had hoped a first look at the nearly finished film would silence the negativity. Instead, things escalated. Reports surfaced about more on-set squabbles, not just involving Rachel and Gal, but also the director and senior producers. The third act had been revised so many times that no one knew which version would survive in the final cut. Meanwhile, fervent Disney loyalists fumed at any indication that Snow White's earnest innocence was being sacrificed on the altar of modernization. Then came the bombshell. As headlines highlighted the Minecraft movie's record-breaking $300 million global debut and the so-called woke Snow White facing another hurdle, Disney dropped a surprise announcement. They were in the early planning stages for a completely new Snow White remake, this time with Jenna Ortega in the lead role. Industry insiders were stunned. Why start a new adaptation when the 2025 iteration with Rachel Zegler remained unfinished? Did the studio lose faith in the current production? Were they hoping to dodge further controversy by pivoting to a fresh cast and creative team? For Rachel, the news felt like a personal betrayal. Word spread that she discovered the Ortega remake at the same time as everyone else. Through online rumors and vague confirmations from Disney insiders, she had poured so much time and energy into shaping her interpretation of Snow White, only for the studio to seemingly entertain a different vision. Some witnesses claimed she broke down in tears upon learning that Jenna Ortega was tapped or close to being secured for another version. The implication was clear. Disney no longer believed in the 2025 adaptation and was searching for a way to sidestep fan unrest with a more traditional take. In the wake of this revelation, tensions within Disney soared. Bob Iger and other top executives wrestled with how to salvage or repurpose the Zegler film. Some proposed a muted theatrical rollout, followed by a later inclusion on Disney+, while others advised skipping Disney+ altogether to avoid confusing audiences once the Ortega project gained momentum. The possibility that Disney itself might not feature the film on its flagship streaming service deeply alarmed those who had worked on it, especially Rachel. She saw this as a clear sign the studio wanted to distance itself from the controversies that could tarnish the Disney brand. Online backlash only intensified. Critics dredged up old statements in which Rachel had seemed dismissive of the 1937 film, spawning memes that mocked her for allegedly undermining the project. Although tension with Gal Gadot remained, the bigger shock now revolved around the looming Jenna Ortega adaptation. Some blamed Rachel for being too outspoken, while others faulted Disney for failing to maintain a cohesive creative vision. Matters worsened when Rachel discovered that an important scene, one she felt showcased her emotional range, had been cut. Officially, it was due to continuity issues caused by the many reshoots, but whispers suggested it might also have been removed to satisfy executives eager to lighten the evil queen's darker tone. Losing a moment she'd poured her heart into only deepened her disenchantment, especially when much of the conversation now revolved around Jenna Ortega's rumored role. Accounts spread of a fraught meeting in which Rachel demanded clarity from Disney about its intentions for the project. She wanted to know if they planned to bury the film or toss it into streaming limbo. Official responses were vague at best. Soon afterward, word leaked that Rachel had experienced a severe emotional episode behind the scenes. Some sources claimed it was triggered by talk of new promotional materials that would downplay her role in favor of Gal Gadot's star power or more comedic elements. Others speculated she was simply buckling under the pressure of promoting a film already tainted by bad press. Meanwhile, chatter about Jenna Ortega's presumed version continued to gain traction among Disney fans who longed for a faithful throwback to the original. Ortega remained publicly silent, fueling speculation. Many believed Disney saw in her a safer bet, an uncontroversial public figure who could bridge the gap between nostalgic fans and modern audiences. By contrast, Rachel Zegler was left in limbo, anxious about a dream role that might never be viewed in the positive light she had envisioned. A few insiders still held out hope for a surprise turnaround. Sometimes, films riddled with bad press pull off an unexpected comeback at release or gain a cult following later. If a test audience appreciated Rachel's updated take on Snow White, it could change the conversation. Critics might applaud her for imbuing the character with depth and agency, qualities largely absent from the original portrayal. Yet widespread rumors suggested Disney's focus had already shifted to the Ortega film. Vague statements from Bob Iger about delivering what audiences expect only fueled assumptions that Rachel's version strayed too far from Disney's comfort zone. As the 2025 release date neared, no one knew if the film would see a traditional premiere. The possibility of a last-minute digital dumping repeatedly surfaced in fan forums. Some speculated the studio might choose to write off the expense rather than risk more controversy. Rachel's supporters argued that she had been scapegoated for daring to inject modern ideas, while fans of the classic Snow White felt she had disrespected the timeless legacy. Gal Gadot, for her part, seemed to emerge unscathed. Her established reputation allowed her to sidestep most of the drama. She routinely offered polite, measured praise for the cast and crew, but made few joint appearances with Rachel, fueling rumors that their real-life differences matched their on-screen rivalry. Eventually, word spread of a top-secret Disney screening to determine if the film was salvageable. The reported reaction was lukewarm. The tone allegedly fluctuated between scenes, and no one had the bandwidth or budget for more reshoots. Rachel, hearing secondhand about the underwhelming reception, was reportedly devastated. She had poured her heart into Snow White, and the notion that the final product might never come together for either the studio or the audience pushed her to her emotional breaking point. Still, there remained a slim chance the film could connect with a segment of viewers open to a new interpretation. Should critics and audiences find merit in Rachel's portrayal, the narrative could shift. But the rising anticipation for Jenna Ortega's rumored version cast a long shadow over that possibility. With Disney offering no official confirmation, speculation roared on, leaving Rachel feeling increasingly sidelined. Ultimately, many questioned how such a treasured story descended into a polarizing fiasco. Disney, known for polished productions, now faced the potential mishandling of one of its most historic properties, either stumbling upon release or possibly never getting a fair chance at all. Devotees of the brand argued that Rachel's sincere goals had been swallowed by studio politics, fan fervor, and clashing visions. Detractors accused her of disrespecting the beloved 1937 original, dooming the remake from the outset. Time blurred the lines between rumor and fact. No one could confidently say whether the film would emerge in 2025 or vanish into oblivion. Speculation abounded that the final cut might be truncated, its emotional center lost to relentless rewrites. For Rachel, this was heartbreaking. The part had been a dream role, an opportunity to inhabit an iconic princess with a modern edge. Now it stood on the brink, overshadowed by rumors of a safer, more conventional remake starring Jenna Ortega. Inside Disney, employees worried about brand repercussions. Reimagining such a storied fairy tale had always been a high-stakes gamble, and Snow White, as the cornerstone of Disney's legacy, felt especially delicate. Everyone involved in the production wondered if their creative efforts would ever see the light of day, or if their association with a potential flop might jeopardize future opportunities. Even amid the turmoil, a handful of optimistic voices maintained that struggling projects sometimes find a path to success. A late-stage pivot or sudden swell of support from a test screening could still rescue the film's reputation. Yet the prevailing sentiment was that Disney had already turned its gaze elsewhere. Bob Iger's insistence on delivering the magic people expect suggested the Ortega version would follow the classic formula more faithfully. As 2025 approached, the future of Rachel Zegler's Snow White remained in doubt. She had gone quiet in the press, with friends describing her as heartbroken over the prospect that her passionate performance might never be received fairly. Fans, too, were left in limbo, split over whether the blame lay in Rachel's bold statements, Disney's disorganized direction, or the corporate machine's unstoppable momentum. In the end, Rachel's ordeal epitomized the heartbreak of an artist whose dream role collided with the brutal realities of studio politics. Despite her vision, the project had become bogged down by rumors, controversy, and the looming promise of a newer, safer adaptation starring Jenna Ortega. What was meant to be her crowning achievement now teetered precariously, uncertain whether it would ever find the audience she had once so eagerly hoped to captivate.